requested.
Yeah.
You know, like 2010.
Adrian and Jimmy. All right, this is the Committee on Ways and Means. This is Tuesday, February 18, 2020. We are at 6:02 p.m. I have Councilor Matusky. I have Councilor DePiero.
Here.
We have 2 members present. We do not have a quorum at this moment.
Thank you, Mr. Burley.
We'll proceed with an informal discussion until the members show up.
Okay, well, I have been notified through you that Councilman Lee is running a little late. Is that right? Yes. So we expect him any minute now, and it's my understanding that Councilwoman Adrian is also maybe in the building. So until they arrive, we don't have a quorum, but Councilman McLaughlin is here tonight on 2 pieces of business, and we have Councilwoman Martin in the back office here, and we have Mr. Eric Demas here, the city auditor. And I just heard the elevator door open. Here comes Councilman Lee. We will have a quorum. Okay. Councilman Lee, thank you. You just made a quorum. We appreciate it.
All right. Item number 1. This is a resolution up by Council Watt 6, Michael McLaughlin, that the seal prepare at this meeting and provide an itemized list of every city account that has taken the money over the past 3 years, and I believe that has been done.
Okay. Will somebody make the motion to invite the sponsor? Motion's made and seconded to invite Councilman McLaughlin up. And do we also have the city auditor here, Mr. Eric Demas. Just introduce yourself, Mr. Demas, just for the viewing at those at home.
Eric Demas, CFO.
And Councilman McLaughlin.
Council McLaughlin, Ward 6.
Okay. Councilman DePiero, you want to start this off?
It does appear that Mr. Demas has provided the documents to Councilor McLaughlin. I don't see us going over those this evening. I think they were for the purpose of the councilor to do so on his own time. I'll let him speak on that if you so wish.
Okay, Councilman McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Councilor DePiero was absolutely correct. I had requested it just so that I could start to better understand the finances of the city. After serving 7 years on the council, I actually never saw the accounts that actually take money, and we know what we spend, but we don't actually know what we take in. So I wanted to be able to understand it in a better manner. So that's why I had requested this, and I wanted to thank Mr. Demas this evening for putting together this packet of information that I look forward to studying thoroughly over the next few weeks, and then coming back and having a discussion with Mr. Demas on some of the individual accounts. So thank you, Mr. Demas, for putting that packet together. I know it was a lot of work, and I appreciate your time and due diligence in putting that together for me. And I know that we will work collaboratively together on answering my questions on the matters. Thank you.
Certainly, my pleasure.
With that, the CFO has provided what you asked for. Would you like to refer this back to sponsor at the time, and you can work with him with the questions you may have?
Yes, Councilor DePiero, that would be
That's
correct
the
motion.
motion I will make, Mr. Chairman.
Motion's made, and Councilman Lee, would you second that motion? We're
Yeah,
gonna
I'll
lay this-
second that.
Okay, we're going to refer this back to Councilman McLaughlin. He has the paperwork on his desk there. I see it's quite a bit. And he's going to review that, and then his intention is to come back at a later date?
To work with Mr. Demas on some of the questions that I have, and if that time any of my colleagues want to see the information that has been provided to me, feel free to ask me for any of it, and we could look at it at a later date. But I think it's helpful for everybody just to understand where we actually take in money and how we come to the revenue that we are able to spend throughout the
Okay,
year.
so you're satisfied that you've got the information?
I am satisfied. I want to thank again Mr. Demas for his due diligence. on this.
Okay, we're going to, Councilman McLaughlin is satisfied, so we're going to, motion's made and seconded to refer this item back to sponsor, is that it? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. And we have our next piece, number 2.
Item number 2, this is a resolution also offered by Councilman McLaughlin, that is honor the mayor and the CFO appear at this meeting to discuss increasing the stipends for the boards and commissions.
Councilman DePiero?
I suppose we allow Councilor McLaughlin to explain his intention with the piece. And Matt Latanzi from the Solicitor's Office
We have
is
the
also
city
here.
solicitor here, Mr. Latanzi. Thank you for being here. Would you just introduce yourself, attorney?
Absolutely. Matt Latanzi, Assistant City Solicitor.
Thank you. Councilman McLaughlin?
Mr. Chairman, thank you, and thank you to the members for listening to this piece this evening. We have many boards and commissions across the city of Everett, and some of them really do good work. All of them do good work, but some of them really take a long period of time in their meetings. I've been in Board of Appeals meetings that last several hours. I know the members go out on Saturdays and Sundays and they view the sites that they're going to be voted on the coming Monday night. There's the Liquor Commission. I know that they get calls around the clock when there's a problem at a liquor establishment. They're getting a phone call at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning by the police and by other agencies to be able to take action. I know that, the planning board, the work that they do, and the fact that they give a lot of direction to the new developments happening in the city of Everett. So there's a lot of the boards and commissions that go well above and beyond what seems like an easy, simple job. And I just think that this year, we are fortunate enough to have a lot of new revenues coming into the city of Everett through Encore money and through other revenues throughout the community, that we should start to really consider paying these members for the time that they spend. Again, like I said, I know some of the members themselves, they spend an awful lot of time working on these different issues and taking their due diligence. I was here one night just a few weeks ago at a Board of Appeals meeting, and it lasted till almost midnight, and the meeting started I think at 6 or 7, I think 7. And they were here until midnight that night working on some pieces. And that's not the first time that has happened. And I don't want to signal them out because I know that many other boards and commissions throughout the city, whether it's the DPW Commission, many others, work really hard on this. So I think I wanted to ask the administration if we could work collaboratively together to start to increase these salaries, to treat these members fairly for the time and the due diligence that they put into their jobs.
Attorney Latanzi, you have information regarding this?
Yeah, absolutely. So just, to echo Councilor McLaughlin's statements, it's exactly that. We do want to recognize the hard work, the many hours that do get put into these boards and commissions. There has been talk about increasing stipends for quite some time now. My understanding is that, much like you alluded to, that we kind of wanted to wait a little bit for some things for this new stream of revenue to come in so as to not burden the taxpayer when it comes to budgetary seasons. What I do know is that in FY18 there was a step in the right direction in that commissions and boards, quite a few of them did have an increase. They saw an increase of roughly $1,000. I don't know if that's a blanket across the board, but some of them did see an increase. And we are still working toward assessing these boards, these commissions, to take into account the amount of hours that they put in, because truly, it's not just the amount of hours that you see them in a room every other week or once a month. Oftentimes there's a lot of homework, there's a lot of due diligence that's involved outside of that room that you may not see. So it's an ongoing assessment for sure. I'm fortunate enough to sit and watch quite a few of them, sometimes as part not of the actual board, but a staff member to the board. And, you know, it's eye-opening to see how much work they actually do put in. So there is an ongoing assessment of this to best address, you know, the requisite amount of pay that goes into this.
Councilman DePiero.
Thank you, Chairman Matusky. Just along with Mr. Latanzi's point, I know there are several boards and commissions that aren't compensated. I don't know the entire list, but one that stands out to me is the Everett Redevelopment Authority. That's a board that is a very involved group. They have a direct hand in shaping the city's future, and I think some thought should be put into compensating that board as well as the ones that aren't compensated yet. Thank you.
Good suggestion, by the way. There's a lot of excitement with Everett Square and all over the community. There's development going on. And I agree, just from the chair, that Councilman McLaughlin is right. The planning board and the appeals board, they're really having a lot of meetings with some of these proposed projects. Are you aware, Councilman Latanzi, that if you could just notify the mayor, any new appointments to the council, we're requesting the address of that individual? You know, we brought this up at the last meeting.
And just for clarity on that, because I know it was not a point of contention necessarily, but a minor back and forth with regard to this address, not on the agenda, correct? Because I know that it was originally stated that that address should be on the agenda, but then for the case of, you know, personal information, that is sent in a memo form as opposed to on the agenda itself. Is that correct?
Well, now, past policy was that it was on the agenda. I just want to let you know that. But, you know, in today's day and age, people are a little more private, and I understand that. But we, you know, as a council body at the last meeting had some discussion on it, that we'd like to know where these appointments actually live. In Everett, you know. I know that there was a question whether if you own property here, you can be on a board, and that's okay too. But we want to know where these appointments live. I do anyway. Of course, I know most of them, but moving forward, Councilman McLaughlin, this is your piece, so.
Mr. Chairman, I do echo Mr. Latanzi's comments, which is in 2018, I put this piece forward also, and the mayor did support a small stipend increase for some of these boards and commissions. And that was because at that time, the pay was so low that honestly, they might as well have been volunteering at that point. So he did agree to help some of them in 2018. But again, and I think Councilor DePiero brings up a great point, some of these boards and commissions that do an awful lot of work and give direction to our community aren't getting anything, and it's really not fair to them to be putting in a lot of due diligence. I mean, the traffic commission, right, Mr. Latanzi, he sees his own father. He goes out to houses, he goes out to neighborhoods, visits sites on his own time, many hours on his own time, viewing locations that he's going to vote on Monday night. So it's not just coming here and voting on a piece. And that's what many people across the city don't see and realize, that, including us, we don't just come to this room, vote, and go home after a Monday night meeting. Many of us, including boards and commission members, spend an awful lot of our own time out doing our due diligence so that we're making informed decisions for the betterment of our community. So I would respectfully ask that we can maybe table this for 30 days, and hopefully the mayor can come back at that point with some sort of a chart that would make it fair for everybody, but that sees an increase in some sort of meaningful way for these boards and commissions that are rightfully due some justice for the work that they do.
Before the next budget book comes out, so that we can actually address it. I'm just curious, what does the traffic commission get paid? You know, the members, not the police officers, because they're already being paid.
To my knowledge, and don't quote me on this, it's an unpaid position, I believe.
Unpaid? Well.
Yeah, there are quite a few of those, and, you know, just not to belabor the point or anything, it's great to see in one regard that, you know, there are people who care enough about this city to volunteer their time, and that this sentiment, you know, brought forth both by this body and shared by the mayor and the administration, that it's not a concern necessarily of these members. This is more of a recognition of their hard work than them coming to us saying, I would only serve if I made X amount of more dollars. So, you know, it's great to see that regardless of that pay, that we have so many volunteers or just, you know, civil servants.
And it could increase attendance too. I know that you know that there's like associate members and so forth. So you know, it probably would help. Councilman Lee, do you have any questions of these gentlemen?
Not now.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you both for appearing. Councilman McLaughlin, your suggestion is to lay this on the table for 30 days.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman DePiero has made the motion. Councilman Lee, will you second that?
I'll second that, yeah.
Motion's made and seconded to lay this on the, postpone this for 30 days so that Attorney Latanzi can provide what the stipends are now and what what people are getting paid, who's not getting paid. And I realize, a lot of these are more or less volunteer, but, there are some dedicated people. There are some expenses involved. They may have to get a babysitter, and there's caregivers. I know there's a few members that take care of their elderly parents, and they may, have to get somebody to keep an eye on that. So there is some expense involved, so, excuse me? Will you have that information in 30 days, you think?
I can absolutely pull what they do make, and we've worked on a few proposals for, revised budget or revised stipends. Is it going to be concrete in 30 days, as in, is this our final? I don't know for sure on that. Without a doubt, I can provide exactly what each
Okay.
member makes currently and a proposal.
Okay, that would be great. And, we're on every board that's
Yep.
appointed, right? Council McLaughlin, Library, the Arts Commission, because there is another resolution sponsored by another councilwoman. And what's happening with that, Mr. Burley? That was on the last agenda. Yeah, well, it's similar to this.
Yes, it is.
So, do you recall what the request was on that one?
So,
I know that
Mr.
somebody
Chairman, I don't-
requested to be here tonight.
yeah, I don't want to speak for my colleague, but I think she was looking for the process of how members are appointed or picked to serve on these boards and commissions, and there was more of a detailed about how the members got to the boards
So
and
it's
commissions.
basically,
and the renewal
pay
process.
too is involved with that.
Yeah, correct.
All right, so we'll give her, she's a member of this committee, actually, so 30 days from now, she'll have all that information. Councilman DePiero, any further comments?
No, excuse our guest if they're all set.
Thank you.
Excuse our guest with the customary thanks. I just want to read rule number 52. This is our first meeting of the Ways and Means Committee, formal meeting, that is. This is to do with cell phones and as the meeting is occurring. We have a rule here that's during any formal meeting of the City Council or any committee thereof, the use of electronic devices by members shall be limited to activities that are pertinent to such meeting. The use of cell phones are prohibited except in the case of an emergency. All members and guests, that includes anybody in this chamber, at the meeting location of any formal session of the City Council and any committee thereof shall set all of their electronic devices which emit audible sounds to the off position. Such electronic devices include, but not limited to, cell phones, pages, PDAs, and two-way radios, tablets, computers, and anyone not in compliance with this rule may be asked to leave the location. Now, I just want to make sure this committee is aware of that rule, because I'm going to follow Rule 52, just so you understand. It's courtesy. We had a sign here that said that somewhere, but I don't see. Is it still there? Oh, it's in the front. Okay, thank you, Counselor. So with that, the motion is made. Councilman DePiero?
Just on your remark, Mr. Chairman, I did receive two separate calls from constituents in the city. One was against the electronics altogether, but the other individual said she was having trouble because of the clicking noise with the microphones being on, and it was quite a distraction. So if we can find a way to have a happy medium here, I think we'll make.
I agree. I've never seen it done before, but we had this was really put in place for cell phones, but now it's expanding a little bit, as you mentioned, and it's an unusual, for something internal. In other words, we have tablets provided to us. If it's something to do with the meeting that we're going to get information on, and that's acceptable, but you can't be emailing and typing away during a meeting. It's not, that's what this rule is all about. And I didn't sponsor this, but this has been a rule for how long, Mr. Burley? A long time rule. So we have to enforce it. Council President DeFlorio and I had a brief discussion. She also received some calls. So we're going to get this corrected. It's nothing to do personally with anybody here. It's the rules of the council. We have to have some, decorum when it comes to this electronic device stuff. And that's not just for the membership. That's for people in the in this chamber. So it has to be announced, and it will be according to Councilor DeFlorio at the next meeting. So I just wanted to bring that up. And I want to thank you, Councilman Lee, for being here tonight. This is our first formal meeting, and Mr. Burley and Mr. Mangan. The motion will be made motion's made and seconded by Councilman Lee to adjourn. All those, okay, we have to reconvene to the back room to sign some bills and checks as we do monthly. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.